Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me. My name's Kevin Bohan. I'm Director of Product Marketing for Denodo. What I want to do today is talk a little bit about data products. I know several people have already spoken about data products. What I wanted to do is take a look at the business value you can get from data products. Part of the challenge that I've seen working with different customers is it's not often easy to explain the value that an organization can get leveraging the data products. So this is going to help perhaps in conveying the value to others within the organization of what they're going to be able to benefit from or what they're going to get from working with the data products. So that's really what I want to focus on as part of the conversation. As I said, many people have already been up talking about data products and that. But why is there such a focus on data products now? If you talk to most organizations, there's a disconnect between their goal of becoming data-driven and them actually achieving that. So in a survey done recently, when asking CDOs if their organization is data-driven, only 24% of themselves identified their organization as being data-driven, and even fewer identified that they've created a data culture within inside of the organization. In that same survey, they asked these same individuals where they're making investments. And somewhat surprisingly, data products came up even above AI and ML and where they're investing. Now, it's a close tie, but the fact that anything, with all the hype we hear these days around AI, that anything is above that is interesting. And modernization is just, I think, the desire for everyone to build a strong data foundation that's going to drive a lot of the initiatives that they do have. But I thought that was very interesting. And part of that, and why there is such an interest, is the belief that there is tremendous value you can get if you have this product thinking, this product mindset around the data. McKinsey estimates that there'll be a 30% reduction in total cost of ownership by adopting this data product mindset, this data product approach. Again, other reasons why it's popular besides the whole lower total cost of ownership, there's a disconnect, as I mentioned, between what users' expectations are and what we're delivering as data professionals to the business. Only 21% of respondents to a survey that Forbes did identified them as being confident that they had the data literacy to make use of the information that they're provided. Or even more surprising is only a third of organizations identified themselves as having trust in the data that they're willing to make and derive value from the data that they're delivered. So that's what we're really dealing with. Data products, if done effectively, can bridge this gap. So what I wanted to do is make an analogy that helps that non-data professional understand what we're talking about when we're saying, look, we want to have this data product mindset, this data product delivery. So some products are universally understood, where you go into a supermarket, you don't need any kind of signage on, what the apples and oranges are, which ones that you like best and that. You understand what they are, regardless of where you go. If you're traveling overseas and this, you understand what that product is. But most products are not that way. Most manufacturers spend a tremendous amount of time making sure that they package the products appropriately so the users have the confidence in it, they have a positive experience with the products. So take, for example, if you walked into CVS or Walgreens and you had a pile of pills out on the counter, you're not going to necessarily understand what they're used for, what the ingredients are, where they came from, what the useful life of it is, or the expiration date. There's going to be no trust, there's going to be no confidence. But the reality is that's how we're typically delivering the information to our users. We give them the data and then they're supposed to understand it. And so no wonder there's not that faith, the trust, and all of that in the data that we're delivering to them. If you think about what the manufacturers actually deliver, there's a lot more to the product than just what's inside, those capsules inside. So you have the packaging that presents the information in a way that you're going to have a positive experience with it. You understand the intended use. the ingredients, you understand the useful life, or when in the case of a data product, where it would no longer be acceptable or valuable to use the information. So all of this is what gives the experience, what provides that confidence in the user in being able to use the product. So packaging is a big part of it. You have to think through the full life cycle. An analogy like this lets the business people understand, saying, okay, I understand why we want to do this, especially if you're going to start federating it and pushing it out to different teams. You want them to understand the importance of each aspect of what they're doing when they're creating these products. But there's also more to it than just in the packaging. So the concept of, the field of dreams and build it and they will come is a fallacy. That's not a strategy. You shouldn't be thinking of it from that perspective. What you want to do is, again, use what other industries have leveraged and think through how you're delivering it and what experience you're providing the end user. So leverage something like Amazon, who's probably spent millions, if not billions of dollars over the years testing out different approaches. What's going to give that experience to the end user? They've also trained all of us of what that proper experience is. So when you're delivering that, the users need to be able to explore and find the information they need to do their job better. But what we can do, if we think of it appropriately, is give them that experience that they've grown accustomed to. And you're going to set that expectation, provide them the experience that they're expecting. So that includes giving personal recommendations to them based on past queries that they've run or past data sets that they've used. It also allows for shortcuts to popular data sets or data products. So allow them to see that a lot of people are using this, they can check it out. Hey, that will be helpful for what I'm looking to do. Also, a collaborative environment where you can have endorsements. If I'm using or looking for a set of information that I can base my decisions on, and I see a peer of mine endorsed it saying this is a good data set or a good data product, then they're going to have more trust in the experience as well. You also want to be able to allow them to ask questions and be able to find from the data owner if they have questions or report data quality issues and create that full feedback loop so the products continue to evolve and get better to make sure they're satisfying the need of the business. So these are all important aspects. Lineage is another way to build that trust in the data. If somebody understands that the information that they're getting about the contact information about the individuals in there is coming from the CRM system, they're going to have greater faith because they know that that's the main place that that's found. But they're also going to need to understand that perhaps in the shipment information, that's not well documented in the CRM system. It's better coming from the ERP system or the warehouse management system, wherever that system they believe to be that trusted source. So lineage is another part that's going to help in building that information. Now, done appropriately, this helps with the user expectations in how they want the information delivered to them. But as of about a year or so ago, there's new expectations. We should be thinking about how we can leverage natural language and let the users ask questions on what they want to understand. Finding the location of the information, bringing it into a BI tool, being able to run analytics on it is the way that people are getting that information right now. But again, user expectations is now they should be able to ask a question and get the answer back. So supporting natural language query, using LLMs to be able to go through, run the query for the end user, and allow them to say, what's the top selling product in our retail locations in Massachusetts, and have it come back with saying, these are the 3 top selling products. They don't necessarily need to bring into a big table into Tableau, sort the information and all that. Give them the answers to the questions they're looking for right within inside of the system or the main location they're looking for. So what I described is often what people talk about is either the data marketplace or data catalog and things like that. But what you need to also think of is how are we delivering that information, making it easy for the users to access the data as well. We have to accept that we're living in a distributed data environment. We have a lot of effort to bring everything into a data warehouse or into a platform like Snowflake or Databricks, but the reality is our data is still spread out all over the place. So having a centralized data access layer that allows the users to have one location to go and get access to the data, combining that with the capabilities that we already spoke about earlier, allows you to have an experience where directly from within inside of the data catalog, the user has access to the data, is a tremendous value. So what we recommend to our clients is building this logical data abstraction layer that sits atop all of the different data sources and provides a central location for users to come and access quality data. To be able to do that, what you need to be able to do is bring the information in and be able to present it in a common format, be able to integrate the data, combine the data, enrich the data, so what the user's getting access to is a single integrated source of data. Also having a semantic layer where you can present that information to the user in the language that they're familiar with. You don't necessarily want to be able to, or present the information using the somewhat archaic terms that might be used with inside of the source systems, whether it's a database or applications and that, but you can present it in terms that they're used to or they're going to be familiar with. So it lowers that bar of understanding and having that literacy. You're providing it to them in the language that they speak is an important aspect. The other thing that I see working with the clients is quite often there's an over-focus on, hey, how do we deliver this via SQL? Because our analytics tools, our BI reporting packages are using SQL, but they overlook a group within the enterprise that is also other consumers of data. You want to support a wide range of ways to get access to this centralized data, and that includes APIs, whether it's REST, GraphQL, OData, a whole bunch of different approaches, but also streaming data is important. In the last presentation, we were talking about the importance of streaming data as you start to do more and more around machine learning models where you want to make predictions. You're looking to have data being streaming, supporting all of that. And a part of the streaming could also be enriching the data, bringing in information from other sources. So all of these aspects, you have to think, how are we delivering this via the centralized data access layer? Forrester did a study that compared the traditional approach of integrating data, bringing everything in via ETL versus this logical approach to delivering the data. They found it was 65% more efficient in creating new data sources using this logical approach as opposed to your traditional ETL type styles. But what's more interesting, especially with the hype around AI and ML these days, is a 67% reduction in time for data scientists related to data preparation, finding the appropriate data and things like that. For organizations that are having a hard time finding skilled data scientists, if you can get more out of the data scientists you're working with, because they're spending less time on things like finding and preparing the data rather than spending time on where their skills are, building and training the models, tuning the models to make sure they're more efficient, it's a tremendous value. Now, all of this is really talking about, and when we talk about data products, a lot of it then dovetails into things like the data fabric and some of the things I was talking about to date, or the data mesh that's talking about pushing out the data product creation to these different teams within the organization. When you do that, you're going to have to figure out the appropriate way that you're going to govern and control access to the data. So in the purest definition on the data mesh, they talk about, federated data ownership in the teams. If you work in a large organization, you understand that quite often that's not necessarily going to be practical. But not every group has the same data skills, same data ability. What you really want to do is leverage these teams for what they're able to do well, and they understand the data well. They're working with it on a daily basis. They'll understand what information is going to be used by other teams that are going to be consuming that data product, but they don't necessarily understand the different regulations that the organization faces and all that. What you want to be able to do is allow them to tag the information appropriately, categorize the information that it's PII information, it's personally PHI information, it's a credit card data, if they tag that appropriately, then from a centralized team, from the security and compliance teams, they can define the rules and regulations that the organization faces, and now you can control this from a central location. You don't necessarily need to make everyone become a data professional. What you want to do is leverage their expertise. So the domain teams still get to operate autonomously, which is a big part of what the data mesh principles are around, but you don't necessarily have to burden them with understanding the nuances of the different organizational policies or regulations that the organization faces. Now, as part of that, you also need to be able to work with the different tools you have in place. You don't necessarily want to reinvent the wheel, so importing different data and things like that's important. The other thing that ends up happening now is if you're federating the creating of these different products, and they're going to be now querying information from a bunch of different systems, again, you don't have that expertise with inside of the different teams. What you want to do, and this is a big foundation around the data fabric, is augment and automate a lot of the data management tasks. So you should be able to automate from within the platform what kind of or what's the best way to execute the query. If it's coming from different systems, that could start putting a big overhead on it. You want to be able to understand where these queries are pulling the different information from, how best to either cache certain information or temporarily move information to a different system and push down the execution of the queries to the platform that's going to be most efficient to minimize the costs and all of that. So again, an area you need to look at. But now, understanding and having dashboards is critical as well. Again, if you're going to build out and have more people start to leverage the data to truly become data-driven, what you're going to want to do is promote the success that you have. When you see that the adoption is going up or more people are leveraging the data, the more you promote that, the more comfortable people are going to have in using the platform, and success breeds success, they say. So you want to be able to promote that. But having that same visibility over how the execution's happening, you can have a FinOps approach to making sure that your data architecture is not only supporting the business, but it's supporting it in the most cost-effective way. So that might mean moving different data sources around to be co-located to near where other sources of information are commonly used together and things like that. So having this abstraction layer on top is a big benefit because you have that single source where all users are going to be accessing the information. You have a single source to track, monitor, and then display the information within inside of the catalog. The last piece around the abstraction layer is if the consumers of the information are going to that centralized abstraction layer, it frees up IT to make changes as they see fit. They don't necessarily have to worry about affecting the data consumers if they make a change, because now you're going to have to change where they're querying the information from. That doesn't happen. You're abstracting it from that layer. And users never know when the changes are happening on the back end. As we know, there's never, there's no end to how our data landscape changes. There's new applications coming in where we have to pull information from, or there's a better, newer mousetrap that we're going to be asked to implement, and that abstraction layer is a big benefit. So those are the tips where I believe that done appropriately, you can implement data products within the organization, make it easy for everyone to understand the value of what the whole concept and the data product thinking is. And that's what I had to present. The only thing I would just end with real quickly, I mentioned I was from Denodo. A lot of people don't necessarily know who Denodo is, but we're a global company. We've been around for over 20 years. We work with companies of all sizes in all industries. We partner with virtually every vendor out there in the data management space, whether it's the cloud providers or the cloud platforms, data platforms and the like. And we're out in the hall, so if anyone does have questions, I could take some now because I think we have a few minutes, but it's also going to be lunchtime, so I don't want to stand between you and lunch. So happy to have conversations out in the hall if you have questions. Thank you.